Rabbi Schneerson, who was one of the most influential rabbis of the 20th century, told a story about a man who wrote to him in the following way. The man wrote, "I am depressed. I am lonely. I feel that life is meaningless. I try to pray, but the words do not come. I keep the commandments, but find no peace of mind. I need your help." The wise rabbi's reply contained no words. He simply circled the first word of every sentence and sent the letter back, with every circled word being the word I. I am depressed. I am lonely. I. Pretty wise, wasn't it? Of course, Jesus was revealing the preoccupation with their own I of those who were testing him and observing him closely. But it isn't just them back then who were concerned with their own exaltation or importance, is it? It affects us all, don't you think, in this consumer-driven I world of ours? Now, after finishing his parable with, "For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted," Jesus then continued with guidance that seems on the surface a little bit out of place. When you hold a meal, don't invite your friends, brothers, relatives, or wealthy neighbors. Invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind. I mean, that seems just a little disconnected with what he was just talking about, exaltation. But what did Jesus say would be the result if you do this? Blessed indeed will you be. Everyone desires to be blessed, happy, joyful, right? It's the one thing that we cannot not desire, though we often go about it in, let's say, mixed up or misguided ways. Fixating on our I, for example, as in the parable. But Jesus seems to be drawing upon the Hebrew word for joy, which also appears in our psalm. The just rejoice and exult before God. They are glad and rejoice. Joy, simcha in Hebrew, is something impossible to achieve in the first person singular. Joy can't be gained by oneself. Joy only emerges because we share with others. Rabbi Sachs said that blessings are not measured by how much we own or earn or spend or possess, but by how much we share. And the great ancient Jewish teacher Maimonides said, "And while one eats and drinks himself, it is his duty to feed the stranger, the orphan, the widow, and other poor and unfortunate people. For he who locks the doors to his courtyard and eats and drinks with his wife and family without giving anything to eat and drink to the poor and the bitter in soul, his meal is not a rejoicing in a divine commandment, but a rejoicing in his own stomach." Pretty intense, pretty close to Jesus' words, aren't they? The joy, the happiness, the blessings, the exaltation we most deeply desire come not out of a concern for oneself, but out of concern for others, which leads us to what Jesus said is necessary for that: humility. Humility isn't thinking poorly of oneself, but seeing oneself as one truly is. Humility is truth, St. Augustine said. It isn't denying one's own gifts or worth, but acknowledging our limitations, as in the first reading, and that all good things come from God, that we're dependent upon him. We are creatures, after all. So here in closing, or a few of the first steps St. Thomas Aquinas lists to grow in humility. The first step, he says, is obedience. Now, the word obedience comes from the Latin word that means to listen. Be slow to speak and eager to listen. Am I listening to understand, or am I already formulating a reply and missing what the other person wants to say? First step, he said, is obedience. The second is distrust your own will. Simply because we want it or believe we're right doesn't mean we are. Generally speaking, we're more fallible than we think we are. Be cognizant of your limitations. I mean, this doesn't diminish you, but sets you within the truth. Humility is truth. And lastly, Aquinas says, willingly confess your faults. Now, how rare this is in politics or business. We're not stronger by pretending we're right or ignoring our faults. But by doing so, we set ourselves or our work up for future failures and the little lies to cover them up. Confess what is true. Humility is truth. And humility is the path our Lord presented that leads to the blessings, the joy, and the exaltation we deeply desire.